Hello, everybody. This is Purge bringing you guys a first-person replay commentary. This was a Kotl game that I played. If you guys haven't played Kotl very much, he's actually pretty fun. There's a lot of interesting ways to play him. He's actually a very high skill cap hero, and this game was actually our finals of the Battle Cup that we played this weekend. It was a really fun game to play. It's playing with Capitalist, Monet Bray, myself, Wolfman, and CCNC. So we had a pretty stacked team. Between CC, Cap, and Monib, they all play solo queue a lot. So let's hop over to the Dota buff section. If you guys would like to skip this, you can. Just hop on over, click the thumbnail, annotation, click the annotation, you can skip it. Okay, so Keep of the Light. The hero is not very popular, 81st overall. He's got a pretty decent win rate across the board, and I would argue he's in a mostly balanced place. He did get nerfed recently, has been played in the pro scene a little bit. This is maybe one of the more popular skill builds, but I think it's slightly off. The way that you play Kotl kind of depends heavily on what your opponents are. In this game, for example, I can show you guys this if we go back to the drafting stage. This is the drafting stage of the game that we were playing, and this is where we picked Kotl. So we're already against a Drow Ranger. They picked a Jakiro. That's two heroes that are very good at pushing because of bonus damage from Drow Ranger, and Jakiro is good at taking towers because of Liquid Fire. So the purpose of us picking Keeper of the Light this game was very good in a tri lane because it has a 2-second or 200 damage nuke at level 1. And we also have Undying, so our tri-lane's great, and we could do Jug in the tri-lane as well. So these three heroes, very good at tri-lane, which is good against Drow Ranger, and if they end up doing well in the laning stage and try to take towers, Kotl's great at stopping pushes just because Illuminate nukes waves. So that's why we picked him this game, and it ended up being pretty effective. So if we go back to the Dota buff part, again, I'm sponsored by Dota buff, but this content is very, very useful. Go check them out if you guys haven't yet. It's great for tracking your stats and stuff like that. The reason Kotl's just good is because of mostly Illuminate. It's the ability to do up to a 500 damage nuke, and it's you can cast it very often. It does require a lot of channel time, which is part of the reason that Kotl is so squishy, is because you're standing there for up to 5 seconds channeling a nuke, and if your opponents see you channeling it, usually they can dodge it. But it's pretty mana expensive, 150 to 180. The cooldown's extremely low at 10 seconds, but beautiful skill. 1 skill point, 200 damage. That's a great benefit for a hero. And as you hit level 3, you get 300 damage, which is still a very good nuke. Most heroes have about 150 damage with 2 skill points. So, and for you, you have 4 skill points for 500 damage. It's pretty good. It's a good ratio. It's 125 damage per level, basically. Very good ability. Your second skill is Mana Leak. You cast this on an enemy, and for 5 to 8 seconds, they will lose 5% of their mana per... let's see, per unit, I think, something like that. No, it's not that much. It's probably like per 100 units. It doesn't explicitly say here. But you basically lose mana if you move. It's like Rupture, but for mana. If you do run out of mana, then you get stunned for 1.5 to 3 seconds. So it's a very good ability. The cast range goes up massively as you level it up, as does the leak duration, but 1 skill point will usually cover you in the early game. In the game that I just played, I did not get it until very late, something like level 8, which I think was probably a mistake. I think I should have picked one up around 7 or so. But kind of depends on how the laning is going. The game that I played was it was more important for me to Illuminate spam and to push waves out than it was for me to actually lane and try to get kills with Mana Leak and stuff like that. So I think I should have gotten it earlier though, because once we started team fighting, I really wish that I had something to do other than cast just Blinding Light and Illuminate. Your third skill is arguably one of your most important. It's called Chakra Magic. It increases or gives mana to allies or yourself when you cast it on them. And the cool addition that it has is it also lowers the cooldown of the next spell they cast by 3 to 6 seconds. So, for example, if you are playing Bristleback and your Quills has a 3.5 second cooldown and Kotl casts Chakra Magic on you, then you can cast Quills twice in a row instantly because there's no cooldown for the first skill. If you use Chakra Magic and then you use Illuminate and your Chakra's maxed out, then Illuminate will cast. But then the next one, it'll be on cooldown for 4 seconds instead of 10. So it gets taken off the top. So if you cast it for a long cooldown ability like Split Spirit Form, for example, it'll reduce it by 6 seconds, but that's not really a good advantage. You want to use it on spells that have a medium to low cooldown duration. Another cool thing that it does is also increases the mana capacity of the hero while you cast Mana Restore on them. So for example, if you cast Chakra Magic on somebody and it gives them 75 mana, it also increases their mana capacity by 75, I believe. So it kind of artificially inflates okay, this is what it does. So it'll increase your mana pool by 75, and it'll also increase your mana by a percentage increases both by 75, I believe. So instead of just increasing your current mana by 75 like it used to, it increases your max mana and your minimum mana. And when the buff runs out, then it removes the max mana but keeps the current mana. So that's how it works now. So basically you can cast it on a hero like Storm Spirit, even if he's full mana, and it will still give him mana, which is kind of the reason for it. It also means that if you have a hero that wants to get a fast refresher or something, Keeper of the Light can actually solve that problem without having to cast Chakra Magic halfway through. It just increases your mana pool. So if you're a hero that needs a deeper mana pool, it's really nice. But as a whole, Chakra Magic, really good skill. You kind of need to grab this depending on how much you plan to cast Illuminate. If you're casting a lot of Illuminate, then you will need more Chakra Magic. If you put Mana Leak into that, you might need even more Chakra Magic, because then you're trying to afford to cast an Illuminate spell, 150 to 180 mana, and Mana Leak, which is now 150 mana. It used to be 75, you got massively increased, pretty big nerf to the skill, but it still can be very useful, considering that in most fights, especially if you're max mana, you won't be casting much more than just Illuminate and Mana Leak together. These two are sub-abilities of your Spirit form. When you use Spirit form, you go into a Spirit form for 40 seconds, and when you're doing this, you can have your Spirit channel Illuminate for you instead of your hero. So if you can't actually stand still for 5 seconds and channel Illuminate, you use your ultimate, you cast Illuminate, and then you can choose to let it release early by pressing the Illuminate button again. It also gives you these two sub-abilities. You've got Blinding Light, which does a massive knockback distance of 525 and gives mischance of 80% for 4 to 6 seconds. A great spell to use. And you also have Recall, which is arguably the most abused ability by Keeper of the Light right now in pro games, just because players move around the map very well. You can teleport an ally to you with a 5 to 3 second delay. If they take player-based damage while they're being recalled, then the recall is cancelled. But it's on a pretty low cooldown, so you can definitely use this to move your allies around the map. For example, countering split push. Somebody's pushing your top lane, TP someone there, they push it out, and then you recall them back to your bot lane to finish the push. Very good skill. And both of these are on a low enough cooldown that I really recommend using Chakra Magic to reduce their cooldown, especially Blinding Light. Once you hit level 16, if you reduce this by 6 seconds, it goes from 12 to 6, which means that you can Blinding Light people for 6 seconds, and then after that 6 seconds, you can again Blinding Light them. Blinding Light's also amazing to use in conjunction with Mana Leak, because if somebody is moved, they lose mana. So now that Blinding Light pushes people so far, you can cast Mana Leak on somebody, then you can Blinding Light them towards your allies if you're trying to keep them from running away. And while they're pushed, there's a high chance that they'll just be mana drained or stunned from it. So if I'm not mistaken, I don't know what the Mana Leak percentage, maybe it's based on movement. If you move 500 units, then you lose 100% of your mana. I don't know if it's quite that high though. I wish it would say. Maybe it says in game. We'll find out later, I guess. But it's definitely very good. With a Force Staff and like a Blinding Light, usually you can drain most of somebody's mana pool. Very good skill though to put on a lot of heroes. People don't notice the buff half the time. Okay, so skill build. This is a fairly popular one. If I was zoning an offlaner, this is a build I might do, because I would want Mana Leak to prevent them from having mana as I chase them. And if you Mana Leak them and you attack from range, then they can't usually get away from you, and they also can't attack you if they're a melee hero. One Illuminate's generally needed though, just because of the damage, and you'll need Chakra Magic depending on how many levels you have of these. But most pro players will do something like a 2-0-2 build with Illuminate and Chakra Magic if they need to blast a lot, and I did something like that. I think I did 3-0-2, just because I was going to be pushing waves a lot to make us safe. I'll talk about that when we get in the game. But this game is definitely very different than the way I normally play Kotl in pubs, which is pretty high combat. I think he can be very useful in that way. In terms of his gains on stats, his strength gain is not terrible, but pretty bad, 1.8. His base strength is very low. His agility gain's bad, and his int gain's fantastic. So his mana has no problem. He has one of the best movement speeds in the game, 335. He's amazingly fast as a hero, but that's because he's riding a horse, so it makes a lot of sense, right? In the past, this wasn't as important, but it's actually a big deal now. Your base damage is okay. 43 to 57 is a huge range, but I think that's an average of about 50. So your damage is okay. Your base attack time is normal. Your base armor is pretty low, and your sight range is normal. But the big negative is that your HP is low and your armor is low in the laning stage. So you got to be very careful. But your movement speed being so high gives you a lot of advantage. So you have to be very worried about gap closers. But as long as you stay from range or hide in trees and stuff, you can get a big benefit. So common items, Tranquil Boots, eggs, these are pretty much your core items. Sometimes rather than rushing in eggs, you will want to delay it for things like a Force Staff, a Glimmer Cape, or maybe a mechanism depending on the game. There are some heroes that kind of just counter you so hard. Like I would say a Slark, for example, I'm going to want to build Glimmer Cape first, most likely, just because if a Slark gets on top of me and I'm building Ags components, I'm probably just dead, because he can Dark Pact off things like Mana Leak, Blinding Light. Maybe you're safer now because of Blinding Light because it pushes people so far. It's kind of good against Slark in that way. But if enemies get on top of you like a PA and you don't have your ultimate, you're pretty much just dead every time. So buying a fast Force Staff or Glimmer may be needed to prevent yourself from dying and ideally your allies. If you're playing against a Kunkka, it's kind of the same thing. If somebody gets X, they're going to die. And it takes a long time to build eggs, so if you buy Glimmer Cape first instead, you have extra magic resistance, and you can keep somebody alive on your team that's in trouble. So sometimes diverting your build is important. In this game that I played, I didn't really need to, because I didn't feel like their heroes were going to pressure me in a bad way, and that Ags Rush was better. But there's very few supports that I recommend Ags Rush on, but it's great on Kotl because you can farm so amazingly fast with Illuminate, and because of the fact that it makes you so strong. What the Ags actually does is it makes your ultimate up 100% of the time, which is a great advantage, because then you always have access to Blinding Light and Recall. That's a great thing. And you also don't have to ever channel Illuminate. You can always have your Spirit channel it, so it saves you time when you could be moving or attacking or doing something like that. The other cool benefits it gives you is that during daytime, it gives you unobstructed day vision, which is amazing. So it's like Night Stalker Ags. So if it's daytime, you just see 1,800 units in all direction. So it's really good against techies, really good against Invis heroes once you get something like a gem. Great for de-warding. There's a lot of really good benefits to it. And the final benefit is that your Illuminate actually heals allies for the same amount of its damage values. So that means you cast your Illuminate with your Spirit, and then after 5 seconds, it will blast through doing 500 damage to your opponents and healing all of your allies for 500 HP. That's amazing. It only works during day, though. That's the limitation to it. But Ags Kotl is amazing for those benefits. Always up Spirit form. Your Illuminate becomes a 2 times mech. That's on a 10-second cooldown, by the way. It's amazing heal during the daytime. And obviously, you always have access to both Recall and Blinding Light. So, Ags Kotl, good shit. Really good shit. Ghost Scepter is sometimes recommended. I really recommend Windlace because your hero's already stupidly fast, so putting that on top of it would be great. And Magic Wand sometimes just to get you through the early game with some extra survivability. Force Strength is really nice, and the mana regen, or the mana increase, the mana charge or whatever can be really good too. Okay, here's a good against. These are mostly heroes that need mana to survive. Wraith King especially needs mana to have his ultimate. Bristleback, you drain Bristleback's mana, he can't cast spells, and then his hero doesn't do very much damage because for his ultimate to do attack speed increase and damage increase, you have to have mana. So mana drain, very good against Bristle. Also, you have an AoE heal, which is a big deal once you get Ags, and you also have Blinding Light, which, because Bristleback's right-clicking is a big deal with the hero, I think it's very useful. It's also anti-split push and anti-push as well, and I would say Bristle's okay at those. Medusa absolutely needs mana, so Kotl's very good against her. Timbersaw, if he uses Timber Chain after he gets mana leaked, he will usually drain his mana and get stunned. Timbersaw 100% needs mana. Leshrac needs mana. Necro needs mana. Abaddon probably can't really... he needs mana also, and he's just not that good against this much burst damage, I would say. Just a lot of things that are weak about Abaddon against this. And Axe... this one's a little surprising. This advantage is not very high, nor is this one, I guess. This kind of makes sense, but these advantages are pretty significant. These top 4 or 5, I would argue. Here's your bat against Huskar. Makes sense. You have no magic damage. Blinding Light's okay, but it's only some fixture of countering Huskar. Mana draining him is pretty useless. PA, same thing, jumps on you. Blinding Light's your solution, but that's about it. Pudge can hook you. You're pretty squishy. This one makes sense, especially because you're usually standing still channeling. Lifestealer can go Magic Immune with Rage to remove your mana leak. And Batrider probably just kills you repeatedly. You don't really have a solution against Batrider killing people in most cases. So a lot of these heroes make sense. These are mostly just heroes that can run at squishy supports very well. So those all make a lot of sense. All right, let's get to the meta trends. Keeper of the Light. Decent win rates across the board, best at low MMRs. But this is pretty respectable for high MMRs, and he is picked in pro games right now, so this makes a whole lot of sense to me. This is where he is most picked, actually, at all MMRs. This is pick rate, I believe, right? Yep. This is pick rate. So at all MMRs, this is where Kotl has played the... Yeah, at all MMRs here, this is where he's picked the most. Which I think makes sense. He has a very good tool. And for me, I have played 29 Kotl games and I have about a 50% win rate, which is decent. I actually feel pretty good about Kotl. There's maybe some periods in the game where I haven't felt super confident about the hero, but I definitely felt comfortable playing him this game. I was playing Undying for our team earlier in the Battle Cup run, And I felt like me playing Kotl was more important because, like I said, you have to be very careful on Kotl because it's pretty easy to just repeatedly feed. Especially against heroes like Weaver and Faceless Void, it's quite scary because if that hero gets on top of you without you realizing that he's going to be there, then you're almost always going to die if you're pre-6, just because low HP, low armor. Once he attacks your Tranquil Boots, you're running a lot slower. It's kind of a scary situation to be in. The Magnus doesn't scare me too much, and as a whole, their ability to push is semi-weak. Monib wanted to play Meepo this game. I was very confused based on how much AoE they had, and Jakir is also very good against Meepo, but he thought this was the right play, and we went along with it. So my goal this game, basically as Kotl, was to ideally delay how much they could push, just because, and also shut down their tri-lane, because we wanted to aggro tri-lane them. It's very important that we do this, because if you don't aggro tri-lane a Drow, she gets a really good start, and then she's constantly giving damage benefits to her whole team, which usually results in them having a better mid-game. So we wanted to make sure that we limited what Drow could do in her laning stage, and Kotl's a decent way to do that. But again, if I feed too much, then I get behind. It's easier for them to kill me in the future, and everything gets harder. So we're just a little paused here. I don't remember who had to go. CCNC had to restart or something. Don't remember. But if you look at my starting items here, picked up 2 sets of Tango, gave 2 to the mid. I got a Sentry Ward and a Clarity. Sentry is pretty important because if we're doing an aggro tri-lane, I gotta get that 1 sec. Alright, sorry about that. It's my girlfriend's birthday tomorrow, and her birthday present was arriving, and I didn't want her to get it in the mail. That would have been awful. Okay, so, sentries. Sentry is very important in this game because if we're aggro tri-laning, it's important that you sometimes block some of their camps, because aggro tri-lanes are kind of a battle for resources, really. It's how many levels each side gets. Whichever side gets more resources usually will be able to kill the other. That part's pretty important. They did have a lane ward down here, which I thought was maybe the case, and probably something I should have considered compared to the fact that we didn't TP to lane. I felt like we should have probably TP'd to lane. Them TPing to lane like this got the ward down faster, and because of that, they were able to deward my ward because they saw us approaching and me with an observer ward. So in competitive games like these where people definitely have sentries and they're trying really hard, I think that's really important. I also didn't want to waste my other sentry because it's important that we block the small camp. I did do it here. And I could maybe try for an observer ward, but I really didn't want to waste it early because there's a Weaver in the game, and if I'm up against him, then I want to make sure that I have that detection. He was playing support Weaver, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and it was about at this point when we hadn't actually seen any of the heroes yet that we realized they're probably dodging our tri-lane, because their tri-lane is something like Drow, Jakiro, and Weaver. Weaver support has been played a little bit recently. So my plan was get to the side lane, pick up a TP scroll, and instantly go to the bot lane if we're expecting their tri-lane to be there. And as soon as we saw the Void top, I knew that it was going to be an aggro try. So now I'm coming to the bot lane to actually try to lane against this. Did get dual breath here by the Jakiro. Wasn't sure if they had a ward in the lane or not, but obviously the whole purpose of this is just so that I can try to limit what Drow is farming. Now, there's a couple problems with us laning down here, mainly the fact that they already have control over our large camp, so there's a chance that they'll just do a side pull, which would limit our resource gain. But considering the fact that their wave is over here, I didn't feel as bad about it. And mostly what I'm trying to do right now is just hide in trees and give the potential of being able to kill our opponents and harassing when possible. Maybe during that last time period, I should have instead been running to the side jungle to get vision and stuff like that, especially now that I see Weaver on the top lane. I don't know if when I was playing I saw that or not, but really my goal here is to blast Drow Ranger and ideally Jakiro, and sometimes it is going to get me creeps, but ultimately that's okay, because again, the whole purpose of laning setups is to get a resource advantage. So if there's this dual lane, and here's our dual lane, if I deny Tidehunter from getting some of the farm, but it goes to me instead, that's kind of okay because I'm still getting farm. But really the most important thing by far is us zoning these guys out of the lane, because if we do that, then Tide should get more gold anyways. So blasting serves 2 purposes there. The first obviously being that it reduces their regen and then they'll leave the lane. But the more important thing is that it pushes the lane. Because when the wave pushes up, if the wave is always somewhere between here, this means that they don't have access to pulling. And if they decide to leave the lane and come try to deny us our pulls, it takes them running all the way over. So by pushing the lane, it creates a very safe place for us. Because when we push, they don't have access to this camp, and we have access to this camp. And especially because we swap tri-lanes, especially with our sentry being used up here, this is really, really important. So I blast. The way that I blasted here is also important. If you stand in the lane and blast, they're going to see it coming. But the way that I did it here was better because it allowed me to hit 2 heroes. It did push the lane, and he also used a dual breath on me, which is a really big advantage considering that Jakiro only has so much mana, and dual breath actually kind of costs you a lot. It's a 135 level 1. It's a great level 1 skill. It does 100 damage, but if they don't add that slow up with right click attacks, then it's not a very good usage. He's basically trading 135 mana for 75 damage to me after reduction, which is nothing. That's like not even 1 tango. That's a super good trade for me. So anytime that he uses mana inefficiently like that, it's really good for us. Cap attempted a side pull here, and I just wanted to put a sentry down to see if they had any wards in the area, and they actually did not. And the only reason I placed this was because I saw that this camp was unblocked. If this camp was blocked, I probably would have tried to deward it with a sentry, just because I know that I can always push our lane, and that allows us access to do pulls. Because again, as I do pulls here, it's going to deny experience for these guys. Even if I do a side pull at like 53 and pull it down here, and then this creep wave that's coming goes up and half of them get denied, it's fine. Because I know these guys will get some of the experience, but if they only get 35% of the experience of these neutrals killing lane creeps, then we're getting a big advantage. Because Tide can pretty much always stand in the lane versus these two, and even if they deny every single creep, Tide will still get more experience than them. So doing a side pull is pretty important here, and making sure that we have control over those camps is really massive. And again, going for a blast. I barely got the drow. This is very close, like less than 100 units. I have actually no idea why he walked forward. I think maybe, if we could look at it again, I think it maybe was because he didn't want the wave to go under tower. Might have been the reason. Because when Tide walks away, there's a... I don't think it's reasonable. I don't know why he walked forward. But the fact that that hit him for 200 damage changes so much. Because instantly that's 150 after reduction. That's more than 1 tango of usage. And now he's forced to use salve. And now it's like literally the start of the laning stage, and he already feels like he has to use his healing salve, and he didn't even waste this. Like almost all of this went towards HP, and now he's only got a wand and 2 tangos left. So already we're off to a really good start. The fact that I was able to blast him successfully twice. And I just did a side pull here, which means that most of these creeps are going to get denied, and nobody's going to get experience for them. Now this... How did that guy see me? Was it just... I guess it was just based on my attack. I assume they had a ward here. And I did want to fight this guy, but I assumed that he had an observer ward in the area. He's got a DD, so it's a little scary to fight him, but I felt kind of comfortable considering that I had high ground. So now basically, we did maybe lose 1 experience worth of creep, but these creeps all got denied, or at least a lot of them were denied. And now we're back into the game. Now we're playing the game of, they have, they tried to do a side pull, it didn't work, and now I'm just trying to blast the Drow Ranger. But he actually reacted to this one, so... And again, it's okay if that doesn't necessarily connect. I just want to be really careful right now because of the fact that they still have a Jakiro that had a DD, and I really can't trade with him just yet. I maybe could have... I'm sorry, I have to take this. My god, so many interruptions. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're basically playing a game of the side pull here. They actually messed it up though. They also put a sentry down to spot for our observer ward, but they didn't get this. This Jakiro's way out of position right now. It would be kind of nice for Tide to have Gush, but he's still level 3, so it's not reasonable to expect him to have Gush yet. This is a completely reasonable skill build. It'd be cool. Gush is a great level 1 skill. Maybe we'd be able to pressure this guy like crazy. I am not really a big fan of how I played that personally. Let me watch it again. I feel like minimum I should have right-clicked him a bunch here. And I did come forward, but then he ran that way. I should have ran this way instead, probably, and at least pinged the Drow Ranger a few times. I did eventually get him, but that could have been like 3 right-clicks, not just 1. So I think I played that part really bad. So again, now that I know that they have a sentry over here, I'm going to maybe try to approach and illuminate from a different angle. Something they might not expect. And I was able to get the Drow Ranger again. Which again pushes out the lane. And again, I'm pretty happy to trade with these guys. Even if he hits me once, it doesn't cost me very much. Because again, I know that we're getting more experience and gold gain than them because we're winning our lane for the pulling aspect and the harass aspect. Both are simply working. And as long as I constantly sit in a safe position, there's almost virtually no way that we die here. And this is why I have to be very careful in moments like these. Very, very good for me that the tower hit the... I was trying my best to juke here. I felt very dead. Fortunately, the Tide blocked me in a little bit here. It's very close. Definitely almost got the guy. I just want to chase here. Oh, I saw the salve as well, and I interrupted it, so now he got really screwed. That just cost him like 300 HP, and he's out of mana, so that was a very good trade for us. I think that would have been so much different if the tower was hitting a creep wave instead of the bugs. I don't think I would have lived there, to be honest, or it would have been very close, because by the time I was under tower, the tower had already broken like, I don't know, 2 hits worth of me auto-attacking, so it meant that the bugs did less damage and my armor wasn't quite as lowered, so that was pretty advantageous for me. Also bought out boots when I was dead, and I also know that they dewarded my sentry over here, which means I needed a ward to the left to protect myself from getting dewarded from that. So that was pretty important. Is this Jakiro that's walking around? He must be invis or something. Yeah, he looks like he's invis based on the minimap, just typical Dota replay bug stuff. So we're just basically going to try to blast whenever we can. I'm just going to hide in trees in the meantime, and don't know if the Weaver's coming back or not, but see if this hits him or not. He does juke out of the way. That's obviously though because the Jakiro's watching. And again, we push the wave. Probably, I'm going to go do a small pull instead. I did want to pull the large camp, but it's by itself, which means that I don't have time. I did an instant blast there because I needed to aggro the wave faster, or I was going to miss the pull. Cost me mana, but I don't think that's a big deal at all. Oh yeah, this is pretty funny. I think he was actually here invis, and he's out of tangos, so we get a guaranteed kill. And now I just need to buy out all my items before I die. So this is pretty scary for us, basically. We just got pressured, the Magnus rotated over as well. And now when this many heroes comes to the lane, you just have to worry about dying, pretty much. Because it's very likely that they're going to dive afterwards. But as soon as I blasted this wave, it looks a lot better. Like, if a full creep wave is hitting a tower, it takes the tower forever to actually kill the creep wave. But if you just throw a nuke on top of that, everything changes. So I'm terrified to be under the tower right now, because there's a high chance that I'll get dived. But I also know that by nuking that wave, I've also pushed it out again, which is, again, the benefit of Kotl. You do so much more damage than any other hero, and you have the knowledge of with levels you have mana. So with levels you have mana, with levels you have nuke. I just simply know that I'm pretty much always set from a standpoint of being able to prevent our tower from being taken. So even though in Dota right now the safe lane is not really that safe because of how many ways you can approach the tower, you can still make sure that your hero is useful, and you can counteract what a draft is doing. So at 6 minutes, I'm already level 5. Tidehunter is level 5 as well. So both of us are doing very well. And again, this is mostly because of the fact that we've been pulling, and maybe we got that 1 kill, which is helpful, but not everything. For some reason, I think the Jakiro was trying to juke or hide in there, and then he ended up getting spotted is what happened. So definitely want to pick up a TP occasionally and roam. And this one, I believe they were setting up a gank top, so I ended up TPing to the top lane to try to help. This one was kind of fun. Started channeling here. It was a huge heal by Wolfman. Really wished that hit the, if only the, what level was the tombstone there? Yeah, I think this is a mistake. I think you should have 2 tombstone. I told him to do this, but he must have gone 2 decay at some point. I don't know if it would have mattered because it's just 1 extra attack, but I got so close to killing him there that was unfortunate. I was hoping to maybe blast his retreat, but the problem is that like your blast goes farther the longer you hold it. I was hoping maybe he would farm the small camp. Did that actually... Did he almost just die here? Because I feel like he just went to farm this. I thought that he might go farm the small camp. Maybe I should have walked here and nuked it. But I'm pretty sure I almost killed this guy. Yeah, look at this. I actually cannot believe that shit. That this guy did not die. Holy shit. I thought he would be greedy. If I actually would have walked like here and blasted this at the same angle, he would have died 100%. 100% would have died. I think I held this the whole time too. Yeah, this is a full charge. Can you fucking believe that? Oh my god. I actually can't believe that. And then I was like, well, I didn't get that guy. Maybe I'll get the Jakiro hiding. And I couldn't see very well over here. There was a big clump here, so I thought maybe he was hiding to anticipate the juke or something. But I don't know. He did not die. My god, I almost solo killed the void. That would have been huge. Okay, so I've got pretty good levels. I've got tranquil boots, so my HP's regen's good. I always want to basically walk through trees like this. You don't want your opponents to know where you're standing, and since it's nighttime, if we look at their vision side, we can see what they have vision of. Go to their vision. They can only see this, so the way that I approached was really safe. I walked all the way through here, because if they have, like, for example, if they have a lane ward here or over here, they'll see you walking in common areas, but if you start really hugging trees, like going all the way through here, there's a low chance that they saw this. The only way they could see this is if they had a ward somewhere here. So I walk all the way up, and now I'm hiding up here in this little tree crevice. So if somebody actually tries to fight this, or somebody TPs, I can start channeling Illuminate, and they won't know where it's going to come from. Because I could be standing here, I could be standing here, I could be standing down here maybe, blasting this way, I could be standing anywhere around. So this is really not, it's one of the cool ways that you need to play Kotl. You have to play him in this, approach the game from a mysterious standpoint, because that's how you get past the fact that your survivability is very low. So I'm just going to blast this wave because obviously we want to take the tower. Try to get the last hits if you can, it's really important. CC was able to get the tower last hit. I didn't really like my camera position. I feel like it could have been more south-southeast possibly, but I think that was reasonably okay. And now what I want to do is, after you take a tier 1 tower, it's generally really important that you move into the enemy jungle and try to get a deep ward down, because the whole purpose of taking a tier 1 tower is so that they don't feel very safe farming in their safe lane anymore. Because once this tower is gone, the closest tower to TP2 is here. So any engagement that happens over here, they're basically by themselves. They have to rely on themselves to get out. So after you take this tier 1 tower, this ward was arguably kind of bad though. I think this is maybe a waste just based on the fact that if this tower dies, this ward's no longer good. This ward would be better placed even over here. So this one kind of sucked, and maybe this one was... Both of these together is absolutely a waste, one of them for sure. But once you take the tower, go in deep, and you want to place the ward somewhere on this part of the map. Most players at pro level will place it here just because this ward's so godly that it'll spot like this camp and this ramp usage and over here. But the old spot that was commonly used was right here. So I tried to put a variation of that, ideally. If you're wondering why I ran so wide there, it's because I wanted to avoid the vision that they would have for daytime. So if I look at their vision, I press this. This is the part that they can see just from their tower because it's daytime. So the path I ran was something like this, where I ran all the way south and then ran around. If I run from here over, they're going to see me crossing. They might see me having an observer ward, and then they might deward that. So instead I ran all the way around, and now I feel comfortable placing a ward anywhere over here. Also, you got to avoid this spot because of day vision. Looking at the map by ways like this is actually really important. Because now if we go back to the game, they don't know where I am. So I like placing this one. It's a little bit off of a common ward spot. It's also not as obvious as this one. It's if they sentry here, they won't find it. If they sentry here, they won't find it. If they sentry here, they might find it depending on where they place it. But it usually gives you pretty similar vision, at least control of their jungle, and makes you feel more comfortable about farming this camp and this camp. And just by doing this, if they never take our tier 1 on the other side of the map, then that means if you draw what camps are safe for them to even farm, it's basically just maybe these 2 camps, maybe these 3 camps, and their ancient area and the lanes. But it also allows us to farm our lane, our mid lane, our top lane, and these 2 camps as well. So just by taking a fast tier 1, it gives us a pretty big advantage. Let's go back to my vision, and we'll go back to this. Just what we're seeing. So we nuked the wave, we pushed out from that, and now it's probably time for us to rotate to a different lane and take advantage. I think CC called for us to push this one instead, but at minimum we should probably be somewhere else. This would also be a decent time for us to smoke to the safe lane. Maybe we should have used the smoke to get here in the first place, just because there's a high chance if they had wards all the way here that spotted us. But what we basically want to do is get behind the tower if possible and prevent them from taking our tower, because like I just said, if we take their tower but we defend our tower, then we have a really big advantage. And having me hidden in trees, undying towards the front and tied towards the front, gives us a massive advantage in terms of us taking a team fight. I had him drop his arcane boots there because it would give him more mana overall. I'm not sure if that's true because of the way that Chakra Magic works right now or not, but I feel like it probably does. But maybe not. Probably just makes it less effective is probably what it does. So now that we've zoned them out of the lane, we do still have this first observer ward that I placed. And my next items are just basic important items that you'll have on most supports. I also bought a experience tome just because any level is really nice to have. And I also grabbed my ultimate because of the purpose of being able to recall people to me and also having blinding light. This gives me a lot more impact in teamfights. Now I see that they're pushing mid, so now my plan is to go mid. This is a little dangerous. I have to be very careful with how I approach this because normally when players push a tier 1 tower like this, if they're smart, what they'll actually do is rotate a hero around the side. They didn't actually do this here. None of them are from the side, and this guy's actually super underleveled. He's only level 4. But what they do is they pressure the tower with 1 or 2 heroes up front, and then the rest of them are sitting over here. And usually they put a ward in the middle. That way when people like me TP to the tier 2 to stand here to illuminate, they pop out of this tree and they just kill you right here. So it's very dangerous for me to TP here. In some ways, it would have been better if I saw this coming ahead of time, like as if I saw them pushing here, for example, and then TP'd here, and then got to like this position or walked up here and blasted this way. That would be a lot safer way to approach this. So this is actually semi-dangerous. But as soon as we had an aggressive TP from Tide here, I was pretty much covered. But those are some of the things that you have to really worry about when you're playing Kotl against good players. Against bad players, they're not going to react that way. And I just instantly start channeling my Illuminate, because if a fight does actually happen, then the damage is going to be there. I can do 400 damage magic in addition to what Tide's doing. And whenever you're standing by a creep wave, always tuck yourself into the trees. Because me standing in the trees like this means that the only way they'll know I'm there is if they have flying vision like a Beastmaster Hawk, or if they have a hero standing like about here in this little sliver of vision. It's the only way that they can actually see where I'm hiding. Or they have to know that they have to see me juke into those trees, then they'll know I'm there, obviously, and they can like do a skill shot. But little things like that are super important when you're playing Keep of the Light. Trees are your friend. If I'm standing in trees, they don't know where I'm standing. I actually didn't mean to walk out here. This is a huge mistake, because if they had a ward on the high ground, then they would know that I'm about to blast them if he spotted me. But I don't know if he did. He might have been in low ground at the time. So instead, what I should have done is stood in the trees here, started channeling Illuminate, and maybe I'll get a blast on Magnus. If they have an observer ward somewhere over here, it can also spot in the trees. Something to be concerned about. So start channeling. Again, I'm okay with the fact that I'm going to blast away some of Magnus's, or some of Tide's last hits. I just wanted to blast here to get them away from him. This is pretty important, because he actually could have died there without me, I'm quite sure, because there would have been a lot more right clicks. I also picked up Chakra Magic level 3. I think this is maybe my first skill build mistake. I think by level 8, 100% I get Mana Leak, but I don't remember if I actually got it or not. Again, I have my ultimate, so I'm willing to blast waves. I'm splitting that farm with Tidehunter, obviously, but again, the important thing is trying to delay how fast they take our towers. Somebody's diving our ally bottom. Oh yeah, that's right, he got Chronosphered. So that tower's basically dead. There's not really any purpose for me to go there, and I don't have a TP either, so whatever, stuff happens. Again, important comment about Windlace and Raindrop. Raindrop gives me massive amounts of mana per second, 0.85. It's like a 50% increase, and it also makes up for the fact that my HP is a little bit low. For example, if I get ganked by Magnus or something, he shockwaves me or skewers me, it damage blocks up to 120 of that magic damage. It's a really big deal. My positioning is actually quite scary here as well. I want to be in a place where I can illuminate towards the Tide, but I also don't want to be vulnerable. And my place is quite vulnerable if they have a hero right here. If they do, I die. If they have a ward anywhere in the middle, they know I'm here as well. So maybe a good way to approach this is, rather than walking through mid like I did here. Well, I walked over here. I don't think I should have... This was the mistake, I think. I don't think I should have walked this way. Instead, I should have wrapped around this way, hugged the trees, because I don't believe they give vision over here. Let's take a look. It looks like it would have spotted me crossing here, probably. So almost no matter what, I was going to get spotted doing this, but they're definitely seeing me when I'm standing here, for example. So even if I am kind of standing up here, they see me this whole time. This is actually awful play by me because of daytime vision. They know where I am. So if I was going to do this approach, it might have been better to instead... I don't know if you can squeak by here. There's a small chance, but it looks like there's vision for Dire. So even if I squeak by, I should squeak by, go up here to get vision, just stand here, see if there's anybody, and then maybe I can squeak and hide in here, and then blast from this way. That's maybe the safer thing to do, but in all reality, based on what I can see now, I think where I should have been standing was here. Just stand down here, really far away from the tower. Difficult ways of approach, they'd have to wrap around from the sides to get me, or they'd have to run past Tide to get to me. Whereas this isn't safe. If there's 3 heroes right here, I just die. Every time. So I think I would play this part particularly bad. I'm gonna go with this vision type. So ran top, grabbed a bounty rune. Gonna squeak back mid and cover Tide if needed. He also picked up his mech just now. It's also nighttime, so now vision has changed again. Let's take a look at what they have now. Nothing. Can't see shit anymore. I could do everything that I just did a moment ago, but actually with the safety of being hidden. I had to release this one a little early because of the fact that the creep wave is dying. Ideally, what I would do is I would nuke the creep wave to a point where it gets low enough for Tide to get the last hit with 1 anchor smash. But I didn't do the best job coordinating with him on this. And now, because the tower is close to being last hit, I want to start channeling my nuke because I know that there's very likely going to be a hero here in the next 5 seconds. So absolutely channel this up. And because of this, we get an easy nuke on Jakiro. I could also channel it up again. I felt a little scared to go in here. I probably should have attacked this with the Tide. I think that was a huge mistake. Because if they did come back there, they very, very easily could have just denied versus what Tide was trying for. So that was a very sloppy play, I feel, from me. I run so fast, 440 with Tranquils and Windlace. Such a good build. It's like the only way to play this hero right now. So we're approaching to the top lane now just because of the fact that we're in a big advantage. We see that there's a lot of heroes here. This is kind of scary. I still have my ultimate up, so I'm going to blast the wave. Got a little damage left on the other hero. So it's been a really nice time to have mana leak. Channeling a blast in case the fight really committed. But these are all bugs, so obviously my nuke doesn't do anything. I have no idea why he ultied here. I think that was a mistake if I remember correctly, but I can't remember. Me hitting the tower I think is also a little irrelevant. We can see the Jakiro down here. We'd maybe love to pressure him, but we don't really have the tools. And we used Ravage, so taking the tower is pretty important. I don't remember if they had Chronosphere here or not, but in some ways I probably shouldn't have been hitting the tower because it just showed my opponents where I was standing at all times. But I felt relatively okay about this. Now we have massive map control, by the way. The only tower we've lost is a safe lane, and we made it very difficult for them. And their Drow Ranger hasn't really had space to farm all game. If we take a look at her items, she doesn't even have Dragonlance yet. I'd probably have to pause the game to do that because I'm pressing hotkeys and stuff while I'm playing. Yeah, Treads, Aquila, Wand, Dragonlance, she doesn't even have that yet. Whereas Meepo almost has Ags. Tidehunter's got Arcane Mech. I'm going to have my first Ags component in a moment, and Wolfman I think is sitting on Arcane Boots, but it just hasn't spent his money yet. Yeah, more than Arcane Boots. He's actually very, very wealthy. So things are going quite well for us, that's for sure. Now we got to pause, so I'm going to 8 times this while you freak out. Oh god, the vision. I think what would actually be smart is I should free camera it. So now we're going to push lanes again. I can do this from safety. Nobody knows that I'm doing this because I'm in the darkness. And I get 4 out of the 5 of the last hits. Very important that you do this. Thinking about pressuring it. I nuked that in a way that I got the catapult and the range, but Cap still got the other 3 last hits, which was good. Cap wanted mana there, so I obliged him. And our wards right now mostly control their jungle, because that's the safe places that they can farm. Yeah, I got another point of Illuminate here. I think this was maybe a mistake. Was able to nail the Weaver, that was a pretty big grab. I was a little surprised he didn't time-lapse that one, personally. Thought he might. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like the Illuminate was good, but maybe I focused too heavily on trying to push these guys. Or try to counter push. I basically played ultra safe with my skill build, and that I didn't want to fight at all. But they did have so many huge threats, really. Magnus is scary. If I get like RP'd and double nuked, I just die. But I did get past this like dangerous territory. Meepo was getting ganked bottom, so we thought we'd smoke over to try to save him. I don't actually have my ultimate here, so this is kind of scary. I'm just gonna blast about where the void is. It looks like it's gonna be 2 left though. I got 1, but that guy can just time lapse. So that was kind of bad. I wished also that I Chakra Magic the Tide there before he anchored, because it would have given him 2. I should actually mana anybody. This is a pretty big mistake, I feel. I could have used Chakra to make any of my allies more effective. It's a nice weight on there on the void. He knew that I was going to do that. But, like, for example, if I just casted Chakra Magic on Undyne, he's got an 8-second skill. That would be down to it's 5 seconds. It would be a 3-second skill. Or Soul Rip's not worth it. But I could have cast it on Undyne to give him a faster decay, so he could double decay, basically. Or I could put it on Tide so that he could double Anchor Smash. Something like that would have been, like, far beneficial over me standing around and being like, huh, who should I actually eliminate? So this is, like, part of the issue, was I started feeling like I was not utilizing my hero very well in teamfights. And certainly in that fight, it didn't go out very well. I didn't target my Illuminate very well. I should have aimed to the right. I saw the neutral, and I was like, the neutral while lasting or something. I don't know. And I hit the void, but obviously he can just time walk, which is kind of good for me because of the fact that he's denied his ability to. This will be a big Illuminate here. Wolfman looks quite dead though. I could have maybe blinding lighted him, and I just activated it now. It's a little bit delayed. Was able to nuke 2 here. I blinding lighted them because I was worried about the courier there. That was actually kind of scary. I was like 4 heroes running at the courier. So now my goal is nuke the next creep wave, because whenever people get hero kills, they're usually going to try to take a tower afterwards. So if I plan for where the wave is going to be, I want to nuke it and then get out. It's kind of dangerous for me to be standing here actually, because they could easily get a kill and then rotate towards the mid lane. It was actually super dangerous. But we assumed they were rushing, so I wanted to check that with Illuminate. That was close. If I would have gotten skewered, I would have died. I think we saw that they were in there. I didn't see it here, but I have to channel now because my ultimate's gone. Now we see it's about half HP. So this is kind of the time period where I'm like, damn, I really wish I had mana leak. We're actually like fighting heroes and shit. My HP is okay. And this is kind of an okay place to take a fight, but if you look at the map, they actually have much better warding than we do in this example. Kind of just prepping Illuminates in case a fight happens. It's not that big of a deal. My mana pool's huge. I've got Chakra Magic as well. Probably should be giving it to my allies, of course. That would be better. Meepo's getting caught here, so this is kind of unfortunate. In some ways, I kind of wanted to just take Roche because I feel like they TP'd back for that. I feel like that would have been okay. But we actually don't take Roche very fast is the issue. We need Meepo for physical damage. Like, Jug has damage, but it's probably just like a... Yeah, Yasha Phase Boots isn't really enough to guarantee that Roche dies rapidly. So, this is the safer move to make. And now we kind of realize we're all in a bad spot. I was telling Wolfman to ward up here because that's where they would be approaching from. But he doesn't... Like, knowing when to place wards is a really big deal for that reason. Because if I had this ward, I would have put that up there, we would have seen them, and maybe we take a fight right here. Instead, it gets a little bit more chaotic once we realize where the heck everybody actually is. I wasn't super sold on this Ravage either. If we all went at the same time, I think it would have been fine. I think I should have Blinding Lighted that away from the tomb. I think that was not very good. And I think this Illuminate's also off, not targeted well. And this is clearly going to be a death for me, but if I can get 3 heroes to run left with me, it's decent. I also could have, actually I really should have Chakra Magic the Tide before I died because he was empty. That could have been really beneficial, but as a whole the fight was good. It wasn't at all. We lost 2 heroes, plus the Meepo. That was bottom though, I believe. As a whole, not very good for us. Definitely not very good, but at least they didn't take Roche from it. That's one decent benefit, and we saw the Dry Ranger die again, which is good. Meepo is back now. Trying to prevent them from killing the Juggernaut here. I think I needed to move my camera a lot more. There's a lot of heroes on map that I didn't get vision of. And again, I'm at the point where I really wish that I had mana leak because I'm actually being quite useless against a lot of these heroes in combat considering I just have Blast. I really regret getting that 4th point. And what I maybe should have done instead was just go jungle somewhere. But there's been so much team play that the problem is that you don't really have time to necessarily get levels. This is a good time for me to get a level because my allies are going to be able to finish Roche by themselves easily. Make sure you do run with the Illuminate, by the way, if you're too far away. That way you can get the experience. Like right here, I got experience of both Roche as well as of the Creep Wave. And I'm also prepped for the next push because now I know that... I'll let that one go a little early. That the Creep Wave's already dead and my team is ready for their next objective. So a little bit of planning ahead when you're playing support is really important. Again, hiding next to trees so they can't see me. And then I can channel Illuminate from safety if I'm expecting them to come out. I accidentally came into vision with that one, but they didn't actually show up, so this isn't a big deal. And that was where our in-game leaders, which was basically like Monib and CC, started really commanding us towards doing smart teamwork things, such as their Chronosphere is on cooldown, we need to push because that's most of the teamfight ability they have. And I'm also looking at the clock right now. I'm waiting to see when the creeps are spawning. This one was way too early though, because this creep wave spawns about here. If it spawned here, this would have been fine, because in 5 seconds it would have been here. But this one's going to be a little bit early. So I casted my spell way too early here. Pretty big mistake. On the bright side, we can maybe hit the Weaver with it. It also reveals where I'm standing, which is a mistake. See, I only got I got 1 creep here, and now my blast is late. I didn't even aim it in the right place at this point. I'll get the range creep though. But it should have been the whole wave, most likely. So. Alright, so we basically got 2 towers after getting Roche. They're taking our tier 1 now, but we're going to prep and set up for our tier 2 being pushed, if possible, which is my goal here. They get that tower easily. And I just want to make sure that they're not able to split push us. This is pretty dangerous based on my positioning. They very easily could have wrapped a support around during this time period and put a ward over here. If that's the case, I believe they might see me. The vision would be something like here. It'd be close. They also could have just put a ward here, in which case I should be dead. So I'm kind of playing a little greedy. If they were better support players and looking forward a little, they would see this stuff coming with observer wards and shut me down. But because they didn't, my move here is good. I think the way I should have made it different is I should have hidden trees to do this. So I could have, for example, TP'd in and then stood like right here, maybe. Or I could buy a Quelling Blade and hold it. That way I could walk into trees easier. I could walk over here, cut this tree, and then hide in this clump. Then nobody's expecting me to be there. And I could instantly get into darkness, which is in trees. So hide in trees, then do this same blast. Then I'm not vulnerable for 5 seconds in a position closer to where the danger is. At the very least, they would need vision to find out where I was. Either way, I stop the split push, which means that they can't now pressure this. My allies are actually taking a fight, which I'm going to be super late to because I'm all the way on the other side of the map, which is maybe one of the reasons they actually went for this. It's a pretty big stun there. But it looks like Meepo's still alive here. I kind of want to push this wave, but obviously a little iffy. Would love to mana leak this guy. He actually did get stunned earlier, unfortunately, before I even pushed him. And then he used his wand there to get more mana, which is too bad. But mana leak showing some value finally. And now while there's nothing going on, or at least while there's dead heroes, I'm just going to jungle on the way back towards the mid lane. I felt like my team could actually easily take the tower because of the fact that we were ahead. And now we're grouping in because they called for pushing because they have no RP and no chrono, which is a really smart play. I don't think I would have done this. I would have personally passively farmed for this period of time, but that's not as good as taking an objective on the map. Again, nuke the waves as much as you possibly can. Gave some mana to Tide here. It's a really nice skewer. Little mana leak here on the Void. Blast him. Just any nuke that I can put on them is a huge deal. We basically just have to protect the healing ward, keep channeling illuminates in case a fight happens, and killing creep wave. When the creep wave's dead, then our creeps are hitting buildings as well. It's a really big deal. So we are looking pretty good. There's a pretty fast RP here. A little blinding light to put some mischance. That was really scary. Want to try to avoid these guys if possible. The mana leak here. I stood still there for no reason. I had my ultimate on. I don't know why I did that. Pushing more towards our allies. That was a big mana leak. Figured he ran away, so let that one go early. Basically, I just want to throw shit out so it's harder for my opponents to actually successfully kill our heroes. Because they know that if they actually engage, that they have a 500 damage nuke that they will be taking. That one I didn't mean to release so early, but my ultimate ran out. When that happens, the channeling stops instantly. So, game looks pretty much over at this point. We had a pretty big gold advantage, I'm sure. But a lot of this was just better team fighting, I feel. But there was a lot of little things as well that they didn't do. Like, for example, all the times that I went to split push, they weren't set up to actually cut from behind and punish me when I did those things, and it's really important that you do that with wards behind towers. I don't think that we even saw that many wards behind towers because they were so worried about defensive aspects that they should have been more worried about aggressive ones, in my opinion. So, got my Ags finished. As you can see, my vision is amazing. You can see it moving. This is based on my vision, the stuff above trees. And there's also the fact, of course, that I can now heal anybody. You see Wolfman get pretty healed here. Very good shit. Put another blast down here. Ooh, this was really close. I should have released that earlier, actually. Because there was a chance he got time walk off. And I should have casted it while he was stunned, so. This is actually where I ended up feeding. I didn't anticipate the Draw Ranger killing me. But anyways, felt like a pretty good game. I felt like they were a little outclassed from a support perspective, I would say. Because of the fact that they didn't punish well. And normally good supports will punish me when I do slightly greedy things like this, but I'm glad I watched the replay because there's a lot of little things that I saw that I think were impactful. There is so many vision-based things about Kotl that are important, so I'm actually really glad that I did this game and not a different one. I think I have to press the X button to go back out. For some reason that thing is not there. Maybe the server's down. I could just... Is everything broken? Okay, I think everything's broken in Dota. Regardless, decent Kotl game. I'm sure we had a huge gold advantage at the end. The laning stage went amazing, I would say. I didn't make too many major mistakes. I think delaying my mana leak really hurt me because obviously I didn't have very good ability to impact team fights in a strong way, whereas mana leak actually is huge. This game, against these heroes, I would say the best hero to use it against is probably Weaver Magnus because they're very mana reliant. It's pretty good against Faceless Void as well because if he runs out of mana, he can't time walk. So he loses a lot of survivability there. But definitely against Weaver as well as Magnus, it's really good. Okay, good. It finally let me leave. So if we take a look at the scoreboard, my damage was pretty good. I actually did more damage than CC, which is surprising, but to heroes at least. But I did do a lot of blasting from the laning stage. In terms of last hitting, I was pretty high. You should be pretty high in last hits on Keeper. It's important, by the way, guys, that that if you play in the laning stage with Tidehunter like I did, you have to do it with a friend ideally, because a lot of players don't understand why you do it. It can be useful to do it, but you have to combo it with pulling. If you don't combo it with pulling, then you're messing up big time. So for example, I used to flame slacks for this. Going into wave, blasting out the wave constantly, harassing people with it, and then taking the tower really fast. That's good, but you also have to combo with pulling, because if you don't, then you're preventing your carry from getting all the last hits. You will get some of them as well, but then they'll just get free last hits under the tower. They'll be ungankable basically. Which, when I find it's better to combo that with pulling, just because then it guarantees that they're not getting as much experience as you no matter what. So that's the better way to play the lane. You have to combo with side pulls and pulls that will guarantee that the creep wave gets denied without dying. Very, very important that you do it that way. And again, be careful in pubs when you do it, because most people will just not understand. They'll get really mad. But you have to combo with pulls. Very important. And it also helped that I was with the offlane hero versus a carry. If it was a carry, then I would be more upset about me hurting his farm level. But considering that it's a Tidehunter, it doesn't really matter that much, because he's already getting more than enough gold based on what a normal Tide gets. So, because it's mostly about experience for Tide than fully about gold. I'm curious what the gold graphs look like at the end. By 20 minutes, we actually didn't have a huge gold advantage, but this is about where we started waxing, I think, somewhere around here. And once we got all these buildings, everything jumped really heavily, obviously. But we were ahead, definitely. Mostly it was the call by CC or Monub, I don't remember which, to play around the fact that their ultimates were off cooldown. By the time Magnus did finally RP, I believe we had already gotten the tier 3 tower, if I'm not mistaken, which is already a big advantage. So Ush played pretty well. Yeah, this Ush, Mario used to be the coach of Liquid TI5, I think, TI4, I believe. Coach of Liquid. I don't know these other 3 players though. But I think there needed to be a way more impact out of Weaver in the laning stage. I think he got severely behind, needed to perform better. The Ags is a pretty good build, but it definitely doesn't work this game, I don't think, because we're pretty damage output heavy. We're very good at team fight, and I don't think an Ags is really what's going to change everything. He needed to have more semi-carry impact, in my opinion, and he didn't really get that. This guy wasn't going to carry. This guy got shut down, so his damage wasn't there. So it was basically kind of all on Magnus to do carry damage, and that just wasn't realistic. Their draft was kind of wonky. I think this would have worked better maybe if they had a carry void or something like that, but we didn't see that either. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with my performance again. Earlier mana leak, maybe 8, maybe 7. Something like that would have been better. But okay, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully you learned a lot about Kotl, about map movement, about playing support in a safe way. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.